Welcome to The Road to Zero, a future-proof podcast, as we explore the changing nature of our economy as we look for prosperity and opportunity in not only preserving, but also improving our environment. Hello, today on The Road to Zero, we have Flavio Ortigao from Recupera, and he's here with us from Sweden. So welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very grateful.
Perfect. Yeah, I'd like to hear, before we get into Recupera, I'd just like to hear, your background. From what I gather is really into research. And how did you get into the waste recuperation business and in hydrogen?
Well, it is so I come, of course, from science, polymeric material. I was on the other side. I was all my life I dedicated to create plastics with different functionalities. And in fact, I did a lot of bioplastics for absorption in the body. I was doing parts like the knots on the column of plastics. So I was working with biomaterial, bioplastics, and other sorts of plastic. I also did work with polylactic and also polyalkanoates. That is a solution for plastics that are biodegradable. And that I have been working for a long time on this. But then my students brought me to the problem of plastics. I must confess that I was not really aware of the problem of plastics. It is a few years ago that we started realizing what a mess we are creating. Plastics are very important. I am a great fan of plastics. But of course, it's undeniable the problem that we have with plastics all over the world. So for me, it was okay, we have to do something about that. And that is how I jump. And I must say, I'm not really so interested in waste in general. I am interested in plastics.
Okay. All right. And then, and of course, the waste we see is, that amount of plastic going to the landfill, going to our oceans, and not a lot of it really getting reused is definitely what the biggest issue tends to be. Even with the recycling system, a lot of it just ends up in the environment. Now, what did you do about that, and how did you start Recupera?
Well, I was in fact working in America. I had a company producing syngas from bacteria. I was not really working with plastics. But many years ago, in '87, I was then working German as polymer section in German. And a friend of mine from Tübingen, he knew that I was born in Brazil. So he invited me to start a kind of scientific cooperation, German and Brazil. And I was somehow reluctant. I come to Brazil. I went to Brazil, and he was presenting a technology for converting sludge into gases that could be used low temperature conversion. I did not pay really attention to that low temperature conversion. I because I was working with high tech plastics, and he was working low tech plastics. But many years later, I was invited by the largest private refinery group in Brazil called Grupo Peixoto de Castro, and they were being ousted of the business by the Brazilian oil state monopoly of oil. They were not being served with feedstock, oil feedstock. It's pure political stuff. That was the reason they started looking for alternative for oil. So this is very interesting because the technology that we have developed had not really sustainability in the focus. The focus was pure economically. We have to compete with oil. We have to do something and create alternative for oil. So we started. And I was surprised in 2009 when I was invited to come to Sao Paulo and I saw they had a huge plant. Everything that we talked about, this company have done. And they want to meet on, I'll make it happen. And I took the challenge because I initiated that. I said, okay, I can do that. And we start, this plant works up to today. They converted plastics to methanol, the plastics and oil to methanol, rubber into methanol because this company is a great producer of methanol. So that was there. I was right there doing a conversion long time ago. Later, I created my own company, Recupera, and then, of course, I was already involved in how to solve the plastic problem. And there is, of course, a huge problem. And people were saying that they are doing recycling, and I knew this is not true. Recycling of plastic is impossible because of this structure. Every time that you heat and melt the plastic, the chain, plastics, as you know, is a polymeric substance. The chain will break. And when the chain breaks, so the characteristics that people like in plastics will be lost. So plastics become brittle, they become opaque, and nobody will put their product in the supermarket in something that is breaking apart. So this idea of recycling plastics, this is a myth. Plastics are largely unrecyclable. And the result is that if you have completely pure lines of plastics, you can use a few times, 2, 3 times. This is possible. But this is nothing. Plastics are intended to remain for 500,000 years, and this 2 time recycle is a week. Most of the turnover is a week. So this doesn't add. So there is something that was missing. But it was difficult to talk to the plastic industry because they were saying, no, we don't have any problem. We have companies that are recycling, Grüne Punkt in Germany. And then it comes a scandal. A few years ago, it becomes clear that there was no recycling. When China closed the port for the plastic from Europe, everybody was a shock because there was no recycling. They were sending the plastic to China, and in China they were burning or landfilling. That was. This is, of course, not recycling. You can burn plastic, we know, but this is not recycling. Recycling is, of course, reuse of the materials, no, of the plastics. That is the meaning of recycling. Now, what you can do for recycling plastics? There is one thing. Everybody knows that we can recycle metals. There is no metals in the sea. You don't find copper, aluminum, cans in the sea. You don't find because they have a value. They have a value, and of course, people live from this value. Plastics, because this recycling is a myth, plastic has no end of life, of course. End of life plastic has no value. Has no value. And the reason is because if you try to recycle plastics, the plastics are full of contaminants, also different types. There are 100 types of polymers in plastic. These are formulation. Now you take 100 type of polymers and you want to reuse that. It's not going to work. I know that. I have been there. I tried. It doesn't work. So it's very difficult. What can you do with the plastics? You can completely break the plastics to its elements. What are the elements of the plastics? Hydrogen and carbon, and a few others elements that come as a contaminant. You have a nitrogen, oxygen, and sometimes you have phosphorus, but not sulfur you may have. But hydrogen and carbon are 99% of plastics. So, and the contaminants are also organic substances. So when you break the plastic and the contaminants to its constituents, through syngas, of course, you have a gas that is composed only of hydrogen and carbon in the form of carbon monoxide. It's not carbon dioxide. It's not burning. There is no emission. You convert to these two technical gases. Both gases the industry needs. Carbon monoxide is the opening for the Fischer-Tropsch synthesis to make methanol. And methanol, of course, is the entrance for all of the chemistry. So we can create, from methanol, you can create new plastics. Methanol, you can create ethanol, and from there you can create all the plastics. And this is totally, this chemistry is already working. There are companies specialized in doing that, in creating plastics for ethanol. And you can create plastics, of course, of other substances, but also you can create pharmaceuticals, you can create nutraceuticals. Suddenly, you are adding value to something that has no value. And the other substance is hydrogen. So I don't need to talk about hydrogen. Everybody's looking for hydrogen. And hydrogen, of course, has a nice price. This value, the value of hydrogen and the value of the chemical, is that generate the value for the end of life plastics. So by doing the correct way, you are creating value to something that today is not recyclable because there is no value. So let's create value. Let's see, and then you start also seeing the whole thing in a different way.
Yeah. So I really see how you have this thing that's garbage, it's not worth anything, and you have this process, and out of it you've got the base product to create brand new plastics, good enough to do anything you want. I hear there's a hydrogen aspect, and might be some other products. And tell us a bit more of like what's involved, like how does this work, and what does it actually look at the output, and is there any emissions, or what's the process like?
Now, the process is completely closed and there is no emission. The only two products what you have now is carbon monoxide and hydrogen in the form of syngas. That is, of course, because you have mineral contaminants. Plastics, there are no ashes. Plastics, there is no volatile. Plastics are completely volatile. They don't have fixed carbon. So everything will be, and we gasify to 99.99%. So in fact, the ashes would be 0.1, 0.2. That is the amount of ash percent per weight. No, but of course, if the plastics are heavily contaminated with whatever, so this will be in the ashes, and they will not be mobilized. They will be there in the ashes, and the ashes, it depends of the toxic. If there are no toxic substance, these ashes can be displayed anywhere. You can use as a fertilizer even. If the with plastics, though, because the plastics are contaminated, so you may have to have a toxic classifications for the ash. But you have, of course, a huge size reduction. You have reduced the volume from ton to grams, though, that you, of course, deposit in the proper way. So this is, and there is no emissions in the air. The two gases, no, you don't want also to have. There is no burning. We do not, of course, the gas is syngas. You can burn syngas. But if you burn syngas, it was used as a street gas. So it's well known as a street gas. But then you are burning the gas. If you burn the gas, you will produce from the CO, you produce CO2. And of course, we want to decarbonize. So I want to do chemistry. I do not want to burn any gas. You could burn the hydrogen. Everybody knows when you burn hydrogen, you produce water. It's totally no carbon. So you can burn hydrogen for producing energy. But even that would be lower utility because hydrogen is necessary. That's the difference. Everybody speak about hydrogen in the future, hydrogen for mobility, hydrogen. This is the future of hydrogen. But hydrogen is a commodity today. That's how you make creams. That's how you make hydrogenation of oil. That's how you make a lot of pharmaceutical products. You need hydrogenation. So the chemical industry is paying for hydrogen today. And this is interesting. They pay, everybody knows, it's around $15 per kilo. But this $50 per kilo, this is the value. This is the value that you are adding to what? Non-recyclable plastics. It's a different way to see. Now I want to say, instead of looking for plastic as a problem, why not starting looking as a solid carbonaceous, no, organic, solid organic hydrogen carrier. So that is what plastics are.
Mm,
Everybody's talking about hydrogen carrier. We need hydrogen carrier. We have a hydrogen carrier everywhere. Unfortunately, everywhere. It's at the sea, in the land, in the rivers. It is in the reefs. Unfortunately, plastics is everywhere, and it's a huge problem. Now, if you see the plastics as organic hydrogen carrier, oh, then it's not a problem. Then it's a
mm,
big asset. Then it's a big asset.
yeah.
What we are doing, we're stripping the hydrogen from the plastics in a distributed form, creating then distributed production of hydrogen, and the carbon monoxide we are converting to methanol. So we have here two products that there is large demand. We cannot supply the demand. The demand is too huge to be supplied. And this is the nice because also we are, of course, a small compact unit. But if you come with a huge unit, 1,000 times larger than mine, there will be no plastics. If you come to a bay with such a huge unit, then it enters the situation of the law of diminishing return. No,
Mm,
your feedstock will go down, you cannot produce because your plant is too large. So this is also a niche for small, compact, and efficient, ecological efficient plants. I think we have a good business.
yeah, and I love the cycle. And what I hear, the plastic doesn't need to be clean. You can have your containers with peanut butter remains, and it just becomes ashes at the end. And I just hear you need to be careful if your plastic products contain hazardous products, then you have to watch what happens with the ash. Now, what does the economics of it look? 'Cause I don't know what the capital cost of having one of these plants, and what's the economics of it, of what gets produced. Is it more than enough to pay for the process?
Yes, of course, that is the whole advantage. Especially hydrogen is a high value commodity. So this, and we only work when you have a company that take all the offtakes because we don't want to be, and of course we want to have our plant close to the guys who are taking, so we can deliver the gas in pipes to the chemical industry, and in fact
Mm,
both gases, no, and they have this demand. We have cases of that. So and this pays for the process. And but also there is of course the costs of solving the problem. Plastics at the sea,
yeah.
they are contaminated. Now the question of contaminate is very important because a lot of people are proposing designers or arts. Let's use the plastics in a downcycling. Now let's downcycle the plastic and now use as a glasses. And this is very dangerous because the plastics at the sea, they work as a sponge. And you know that in the sea there is these persistent organic pollutants. And the plastics concentrate and enrich those. So in the plastics, it's like a sponge, it absorbs. So the concentration of pollutants increase a lot. You don't want to make glasses and use in your faces with lots of substance that may be cancer. So you don't want to do
Mm,
that. I'm very critical to any of those suggestions. I say logic or suggestion what to do with the plastics. Plastics have to be treated as if they were toxic, and they may, if they come from the sea, they are toxic. Now, most of this toxicity, there are minerals which are toxic. The minerals will not be volatile, so they will be in the ashes. The mineral is cadmium. In the PET, you have cadmium because cadmium is the catalyst of cadmium. So you have it's a problem when it will melt because and want to reuse as a bottle. This is a myth. Nobody does
mm,
that because of the cadmium. Otherwise, you have cadmium in the water. Cadmium is not good. And if they don't use chrome or other stuff, even worse. But cadmium is not good. Now, when we gasify plastics, the cadmium will be in the ashes. But the organic pollutants, those persistent organic pollutants, could be PCB, could be DDT, lots of things that are in the plastics. Well, they will be degraded. There are also carbon organic molecules. All the organic molecules will be cracked, and they will be cracked to what? Carbon and hydrogen. So we
mm.
deal with those organic contaminants. There will be no organic contaminant in the gas. And this is the only form that you can process mixed plastics. And when you have collecting plastic from the sea, you have 100 many dozens of types of plastics with 100 components, different formulations. You cannot separate that. Nobody can separate that. So the only thing you can do is really crack everything to the elements. The elements are hydrogen and carbon, and then of course you can resynthesize to Fischer tropes. So this is the
Okay.
proposal.
Yeah. So what I hear is a really beautiful process. It's really bringing it down to the base elements, and then you've got what you need to make high value plastics. And what I hear is you're displacing the need to even use oil for new plastics, and you're
Exactly.
getting some hydrogen gas out of the process to do other high value stuff with.
Exactly. So this is exactly, we are avoiding new plastics. We can produce it, and this is the circular economy of plastics. So this is really what moves us. We develop a method for the circular. Um, the vision that you plastics, of course, they have played a very positive role until they become a problem, but now they are a problem. And if you change this and see the plastics as a carrier for hydrogen, then you have solved the problem. Then you have found the way to recycle. And I think that our technology, and people will come with other technology as well. And well, why not? There is a free world. But I think we have something.
And what's next for Recupera? Because I hear you've got a functioning plant. Is it scaling up or additional plants? What do you see the future? What's the future next for you?
Yeah. For us is of course multiplex. We are now in the expansion phase. After many years developing the methodology, the technology, and then of course we did the validation first in Brazil and now in Slovenia. Now, because the world has changed, also because people stopped talking that they were recycling plastics. Now they are looking for solution for the plastics.
Mm,
And that will have. So we are in a very nice winds, the winds of change, the winds of sustainability, of circular economy. And I think these are propositions that are there to stay. They will change the face of the chemical industry. Plastics
mm,
can be chemically recycled if you break them down to their elements. Then they are infinitely recyclable because it's the old law. No, you cannot disappear with the atoms, and once made, they are there, and they can be infinitely recycled. We also need energy, but
mm.
energy we provide. So we provide the energy from hydrogen. So the hydrogen is a very energetic molecule and provides energy for the process. So the process is totally autothermical. We don't need the energy from outside.
Okay. And right now, where is your plant? Is it in Sweden or where is it located, or Germany?
Now, the plant that we have built, the first one is in Slovenia, in Celje, and now we have several projects in Europe and in South America, in Australia. Several things happen at the same time, and we cannot really scale up. Uh, you may be possible, but we cannot. We don't have this capacity to scale up. You have to multiplex. When you scale up, there are thermodynamic constraints. Now, if you try to scale up just for making the reactor, and there is, of course, a lot of gasifier there. So why are our gasifier so special? Because of the quality of the gas. Most of the gasifiers are there for producing a gas that will burn. If you're going to burn the gas, you don't need to worry about quality. Anything will burn.
Mm,
Plastics burn, oil from plastics burn, gas from plastic burns. So this is not a problem. But when you want to do chemistry to add value to your gas,
mm,
then you need to have a very clean gas. And this clean gas, this is not trivial. This is what takes a lot. And we have now the solution, the perfect solution. We process 1 ton per hour. 1 ton per hour, 22 hours a day, 8,000 hours per year. Uh, and of course, we start with plastics, which have no value. At the end, we have hydrogen, which the price for hydrogen varies, but well, let's say $15 per kilo. We produce 144 kilos per hour, and that's 8,000 hours per year. That is what pays the process.
yeah, so definitely something to make it then. And what I hear, the way it works is the garbage truck with the plastic will bring it to the chemical plant, and and your systems collocate there, and they just feed it into the process.
Exactly. Exactly. You are converting waste into valuable chemicals. And of course, the chemical industry will take from there and producing plastics, produce things that they are using today.
Yeah, and then right now, just to look at, because I imagine right now people will probably be paying them to take the plastic and take it away. So how does that work as a service? Are they paying for the plastic?
Well, plastic, of course, taking care of plastic has a price. Nobody does anything for free. And if you have contaminated plastics, the price can be very high. because you have to sell the plastic to the cement industry. And the cement industry will not do that for free. The cement industry charges you lots of bucks. And also you have the transport to the cement industry. No, you deliver the plastic, your trucks will come empty. So when you calculate everything, there is a lot of costs in contaminated plastics. And we resolve the problem by reducing the cost of the clients. So that's what we do. No, we reduce the cost. We work there. You pay us because we will be local. We will be close to you. We will reduce your transport cost. We will reduce your gate fees, and we still produce something that's high value. You have, and of course, I work with the environmental authorities. So when we receive the plastic, we issue the correct end use certificate so that you know that that plastic is not going to be burned in Africa, is not going to be in the landfill or in Asia. We don't do that. And this is controlled. So we have environmental authority that controls the process so that you can use the certificate, the ecological certificate.
Perfect. Well, I see it's a growing industry, and it's great to see that it's expanding. So it's a definitely will be a big piece for tackling that waste. And just what a great example of the circular economy, where you've taken the trash and making it into a high value product. So thank you very much for being with us today and really showing us how that works and how it's a big part of solving multiple problems, having zero emission products as well as taking care of the plastic waste.
My pleasure, Nick. It's nice to talk to you. And if you have any questions, if listeners have questions, please write it down and I will do my best to answer your questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have yourself a good day. To hear more about our podcasts, showcase events, or the Futureproof Network, please visit us at www.futureproof-network.com.